Profiles. I'm Mickey Burns. Today's guest singer Tony Orlando is magic. You buy a ticket to one of his shows, you sit down, and he makes you feel good, which is certainly one of the keys to his enormous success. In the 70s, Tony went from recording artist to television star with the Tony Orlando and Dawn Show. They became the first multiracial group to have a primetime variety show on network television. So join me now as I welcome the multi-talented Tony Orlando to Profiles. Tony Orlando, welcome to Profiles for the second time.
It's always a pleasure.
It's great seeing you.
Good to see you too. And boy, you have a beautiful setup here.
Thank you. And you brightened up. You're brightening
Got
up.
a fireplace, the coffee, the whole thing. It's perfect.
And it's all for you today.
Thanks.
For our viewers, you're a singer, entertainer, and a humanitarian. I don't know if a lot of people call you that, but I will today.
That's the nicest thing you can call me.
Because reflecting back, I read a recent article about your life, and in it you said after 50 years in show business, maybe even 60.
57.
57. You said, my whole purpose is to take my career and turn it into good.
Yeah, I think deep down inside, most performers that I've met know that they've been blessed, that they've been given a chance to do something, not only to acquire their own dream, but to make something happen for somebody else. There's nothing better than that. You know, in all the years I hosted the telethon with Jerry Lewis,
which was 34.
34 years. I remember when we got that last tote board number, I walked out of there after a 24-hour telethon feeling like, man, you know, this fame or this celebrity or whatever God's blessed me with all these years, I actually did something good with it. I actually helped somebody.
That's great.
There's nothing better than that.
Yeah. Let me go.
You know, there's a book I read a long time ago,
Yes.
Mickey, called Notes to Myself. And the author's name was Hugh Prather. I was about 14 years old when I read it. At 16 years old, I had my first hit record.
Yep.
And I remember this phrase. He said, fame isn't really fame at all. It only appears that way from a distance.
Wow.
In other words, it's really a mirage. Because when I go home, I'm daddy.
Yeah.
When I go home, I'm my wife's husband. When I hug my mother, that's hugging my mom. When I go out to eat with my friends, it's Tony having coffee and dinner with his friends. Fame only happens when you don't know the person. It's a name on the marquee and oh, that person's famous. The person who's famous doesn't know what fame is. But it can have a double-edged sword. It can do good. You can do good with it.
Yep.
Or you can do your own neck with it.
Let me talk a little bit about some of the good that you've done with it. As I said, you hosted the NDA Telethon for 34 years. That's not all you've done. For years, you gave your time and your celebrity for the retarded citizens.
8 years as chairman of the NARC, yeah.
Diabetes research.
Yeah.
And raising money for veterans for over 40 years.
44.
So you've done an extraordinarily good amount of work.
Thank you. I just hosted, I had a great time in Dallas. I hosted the Congressional Medal of Honor Recipients Dinner and performed for them in my 4th year with them. So it was a fun time to be with those guys, those real heroes, you know.
Well said. Now, you recently had an accident in your home. What happened?
That's my boo-boo right there.
What happened?
Okay, so I go to my garage, and my clicker to open the garage doesn't work. I'm heading for the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Then I figure out there's like a pull thing that you pull down so you can bring the door down.
Yeah.
That didn't work. I said, I got to get to the studio. I go out, and we've all taken our garage doors and manually brought them down, right? We've all done that.
Yeah.
But this one was off the chain. So when I pulled it down, the speed of the door was way faster than I expected. And you know how the panels come down?
I do.
Well,
You got caught in the panel.
And I took my finger off.
Pain?
No pain.
No
You know what's so
pain.
odd? I thought I made it. I said, man, thank God my reflexes
that was
are good."
close.
Then I look and I went, oh, God, there's no finger there. So it crushed it. Sorry to do this ugly stuff. They crushed it. My daughter calls me in the hospital. She says, I'm going to go back and get your finger so I can sew it back on.
Right.
So she goes with my buddy. They open up the garage door, and he takes the thing out with a screwdriver and then puts it in the bag with the ice. And for your information, I'm told by the doctors, in case anybody gets anything amputated, never put it in ice because the finger or the amputation piece will get frostbite and it can't use it.
You want it alive.
You want it alive, exactly.
But they put it in ice.
They put it in ice, and when I got there, the doctor said, "Are you kidding me? This is a piece of chewing gum." It was so flattened out,
So that was
couldn't
it.
use it.
So you now have a...
So now I can only knock on the ceiling 2.5 times.
Well said, Tony. For our viewers, you grew up here in New York City. You're a New Yorker through and through, in the upper 20s, known as Chelsea today, right? And I did want to mention that you're half Puerto Rican and half Greek, making you a...
Greek-Rican.
You sure are. How would you describe your childhood growing up in Chelsea?
We thought it was Hell's Kitchen. Of course, Hell's Kitchen's a little bit north of
Yes,
that.
it is.
But we used to think that we lived in Hell's Kitchen. So when people would say to me, "You live in Hell's Kitchen?" I would say, "No, I live in Heaven's dining room." Because I loved my childhood in New York. I loved the summertime with the pumps open and stickball on 22nd Street and playing sewer to sewer and box ball and all that stuff. It's a New York thing, you know. Kick the can, all these wonderful games that only happen in the city. Johnny Ride a Pony. You ever play Johnny Ride a Pony?
Of course, I'm Staten Island.
Well, then you know.
At 16, you became a teen idol. When Carole King and Jerry Goffin wrote for you Halfway to Paradise.
Well, you know, that's why you have this show. Where you read that, I'll never know. I don't know if you remember from the last
I
interview.
stole it from you.
Okay.
Interestingly.
Carrie used to say, when you get into the studio, don't sing Halfway to Paradise. Say it like a paradise. Halfway to paradise.
And it's stuck, and it's there, and I know it's there. Interestingly, which I wasn't aware when we did our first interview, that was their first hit as well.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You know, when I saw Beautiful,
Yeah.
the play about Carol's life,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
reliving my childhood there. Because every scene in that play,
Yeah.
I was part of. I remember when Carol came in and played Will You Love Me Tomorrow for me and Don Kirshner.
That's the Shirelles. But
But-
you did the demo.
We made the first recording of it
Right.
also.
Right.
And so it was supposed to be my first release. And I said, I just got off the street and I just heard the Shirelles record. I thought it was my first record, Don Kirshner. He said, "Tony, it's a girl's song." I said, "A girl's song? How's that?" He goes, "Tonight with words unspoken, you say that I'm the only one. But will my heart be broken when the night meets the morning sun? Is this a lasting treasure or just a moment's pleasure? Can I believe the magic of your sighs? Will you still love me tomorrow?" He said, "No 16-year-old boy says that to a girl." And he was right.
So
You know,
Shirelles got
no boy act other than the Bee Gees ever cut that record
Right.
as a single.
Wow. But they gave you Halfway to Paradise.
And Halfway to Paradise became a big hit for me
The big hit.
in '61. And then I followed that up with a new team of writers called Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, who are also in the play Beautiful.
Wow. Wow.
And I gave them their first hit record. It was called Bless You.
Which was almost a bigger hit than...
Bigger hit.
Yeah.
And then they wrote You've Lost Our Love and Feeling on Broadway, Somewhere Out There. We got to get out of this place, on and on and on, and hit after hit.
I did read something, and I think you mentioned it briefly the first time we had you on the show, that after Halfway to Paradise became a huge hit, that Elvis Presley sent you a fan letter?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. I didn't think it was a real letter till I met Elvis.
I thought it was a joke.
I thought somebody was joking. So one day, I'm coming into the Hilton Hotel because we both played the Hilton together in Vegas. And he come to see the show, my show, the night before he's opening.
Oh,
He comes backstage and I said, "I got to ask you a question before we go another step further."
yeah, yeah.
I got a note, 1961, from someone named Elvis Presley, in a stupid little envelope that didn't look like it was like the hand delivered to me. And I thought all these years that it was a joke. I've never met you before, Elvis. Did you ever have Halfway to Paradise in your jukebox? He goes, "Well, things you get my note?" I said, "It was really you?" He goes, "Yeah. Are you kidding? Priscilla, tell him how I sit at the piano and I sing Halfway to Paradise."
And he had enough thoughtfulness to send you that note.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
After a bunch of huge hits that you had in the 60s, out of nowhere, And you just mentioned Paul McCartney, right? In came the British invasion. And it was almost over for not only Tony Orlando, but a lot of others.
It was over.
It was over. And you said, I felt like I was probably the youngest oldie but goodie that ever lived.
I was the youngest oldie but goodie that ever lived.
And you were like, were you 20 yet? No.
I was 21 years old.
Unreal. Were you shocked by it all?
No, I was impressed by what was coming over.
Yeah.
You see, I had been to England
Yeah.
in the early 60s with Halfway to Paradise. And bless you, and I came home and I told Carole King, I said, Carole, in England, they don't grab at your hair and, teen idol you. They walk up to you, these young kids, and say, is Gary Chester playing drums on your next session? Is Carole King producing your next record? They were interested in what happened in the studio. And I knew, because that interest was in them, that something special was going to come. I wasn't surprised.
Wow.
And I had met the Beatles before their success, way early in their life, and I knew that this was a very special group.
Wow. In the mid-'60s, you were in your early 20s. And did you meet Clive Davis at that point?
No, I met a guy named Neil Anderson who worked for Clive,
Okay.
and Clive suggested that he hire me.
Right.
And I was working for another publishing company because the English invasion took me off the stage. So I said, I want to stay in the business. So I went to work for a publishing company, and for Clive Davis's publishing company. And I represented some great people.
You sure did.
James Taylor.
Yep.
I signed Barry Manilow.
Grateful Dead?
Grateful Dead. Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Yes.
Laura Nero. Some of the really great performers of all time.
So you found something to do rather quickly.
Yeah.
Teen idol to executive. My question is, you had, which I wasn't aware of, but you had dropped out of high school, right?
Never went to high school.
Never went to high school. Never went to college.
8th grade.
What do you think it was that Clive Davis saw in Tony Orlando?
Well, I was having a good run at this other publishing company.
Okay.
And I had Delilah with Tom Jones, and I had...
He saw your talent. That's what he
he
recognized.
saw my ability to work with writers and publishing, because I learned from the best. I learned from John Kirshner.
He sure did.
And he
Carole
knew that.
King.
And Carole,
Right.
and oddly enough, it was Clive Davis who was the first attorney to sign a 16-year-old singing Tony Orlando.
I would think.
I mean, I owe him. And when he found out
Yeah.
that I recorded as Dawn,
Well,
quietly,
we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Candida.
yeah. But, working for Clive was a great experience for me. And he allowed me full run, general manager at 23 years old, about to make me vice president of the company. And I had Candida.
What a life. But let me go on. And you said at that time, you said, I learned the business aspect of show business, and it helped me throughout my career, and it continues to do that today.
It was the greatest experience because I used to get hurt if I was turned down for a movie or for a part. I used to get hurt.
Yeah.
When I sat behind the desk, there are times I turned an act down. It wasn't because of their talent. It was because it wasn't what we were looking for. It wasn't within our budget.
Okay.
There were a lot of reasons why I turned that artist down.
Wow.
And I would tell them, I say, I'm not turning you down because the talent isn't there.
Yeah.
You just don't fit the image of the label or the company. We're not going in that direction. Most of the time, it's because the guy ain't got the money or the guy ain't got the right place for you. But very seldom is it because he doesn't think you're talented.
That's interesting. That's interesting. In the early 70s, as you briefly mentioned, you recorded a demo, right, of the song Candida.
I didn't cut a demo.
Oh, you did cut the
No.
demo.
When I was working for Clive,
Yeah.
my good friend Hank Bedris, who was with the Tokens,
Begged you to do something for him.
because he needed rent money.
Yeah.
So he plays me this record,
Yeah.
Candida, finished.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Finished.
But he didn't like it.
I send him to Bell Records.
Right,
They
right.
call him up and say, we love the song, we love the production, we don't love the lead singer. Go get a new lead singer. So Hank says to me, didn't you used to cut all the demos for the Drifters for Carol? I said, I did. He said, well, this is like a Drifters song. Would you do it for me?
Yeah.
I said, Hank, I can't do that. I work for Columbia Records.
Conflict
He goes,
of interest.
I won't call it Tony Orlando. I need my rent money. So I go in, I cut this record as as a favor. I said, I got 1 hour to cut it.
Yep. 1 hour.
1 hour to cut it. And here's how we
Well,
cut
you
it.
did it on your lunch break.
This I've never told anybody.
Okay.
So I go in the studio.
Yeah.
And this is how we cut that record. Now, Hank's in the studio in the booth.
Yeah.
And there's a thing in those days called cell sync. What that meant was you could sing one line, stop the track. What's the next line? Go to the next line. So we cut one line at a time because I didn't know the song. So I go, how does it go? He go, stars won't come out if they know that you're about. Hang on, one more time. Stars won't come out. Okay, play the track. Da 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 da. I go, stars won't come out if they know that you're about. Stop the tape. What's the next line? Because they couldn't find the glow of you. Because they couldn't match the glow of you. Start it. Now I hear the first line in my ear. Comes the second line. Because I couldn't match the glow. We did it one line at a time.
And an hour. And what happened to the song eventually?
Well, I'm sitting in my office, and I get a call from my secretary. She goes, Candida is going to be #1. It's like it came on the charts at number 20 with a bullet. I said, what's Candida? It was so far behind there,
You didn't even
I
know it
forgot.
was.
She goes, this thing you cut with Hank. I goes, the hit? She goes, yeah. I go, I'm in trouble.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
going to lose my job. So he called the group Dawn without Tony Orlando on it.
Yeah.
To compliment the president of the company's daughter's name, Lisa Dawn Wax.
Reflecting back today, do you have any guilt in that song became such a huge hit, knowing how you produced it?
And one
to
guy
get
didn't
songs
get
out?
in. The guy that was on the record didn't get in. Has
Yeah.
killed me ever since.
It has.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Amazing.
yeah. I mean, you know what's amazing?
Yeah.
Is sometimes you back into a situation.
That's
I
right.
had to go to work for Clive Davis
Yeah.
in order to accidentally back into my career.
It's true. It's a good way to look at it. I never thought of it that way, but it's so true. How did
And in
yes.
Clive Davis's, with great respect,
Yes.
when he found out it was me,
Well,
I thought he was going to be mad.
yeah.
I said, you always knew it was me? He goes, it's the worst kept secret in show business. And this is what
Yeah.
he said.
Yeah.
Go for your dream.
Oh.
If the dream doesn't happen, you can always come home.
Well, it's like a good parent. Like
It was a good friend.
Okay. Next question is, how did Thelma Hopkins and Joyce Vincent Wilson originally get together with Tony Orlando? And did the three of you click right from the start?
Yeah. I met Thelma and Joyce. You know, Thelma and Joyce did the backgrounds on Ain't No Mountain High, Heard It
yes,
Through the
for the
Grapevine with
Simpsons.
Marvin Gaye, Shaft with Isaac Hayes. So before it was Tony Orlando and Dawn, it was Marvin Gaye and Dawn,
was
Isaac
it?
Hayes and Dawn. They were very successful doing backgrounds.
I didn't know that.
So when I hired them to do a session with Barry, when I was producing Barry Manilow,
Right.
I met them.
Nice.
And that's when we came together and joined together.
And then once you became Tony Orlando and Dawn, the chemistry was perfect right from the start, I would
Well,
assume.
we became Tony Orlando and Dawn because of the CBS television show.
Yeah, how old were you at that time?
How old?
Yeah.
27 or 28.
Right. How did you feel at that point, knowing at that point you were breaking barriers? I mean,
Wow.
you and Thelma and Joyce were the first multiracial group to have a primetime variety show.
Yeah.
Were you aware of that at the time?
No.
And
Not only were we the first multiracial group, we were the first group, other than a duet,
that's
to ever
right.
have a primetime
Right.
show. And that holds true to this day.
Yeah.
And Thelma and Joyce and I, the three of us,
Yep.
if anything we have ever been really proud of,
Oh.
is that we went on television 1 year after Petula Clark kissed Harry Belafonte. There was a front page story as,
Yeah.
what? And we went on in all of the family era as a multiracial group,
Right.
a Greek Rican and
Yep.
2 African American
Yep.
girls. Nobody thought a lot of America was going to accept us. Do you know that in the 5 years we were on television,
Yeah.
we never got one hate mail? Not one.
That's the significance of what you accomplished.
You're not kidding.
Wow. Wow.
And it's also significance to the way the country went. The country was getting
It was
better.
changing. It was changing.
Yeah.
Biggest show business thrill.
There are so many. I think the biggest thrill I
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
was the White House.
Meeting.
So I did a state dinner for Gerald Ford. And the president says to me, we're going to walk back a different way back. And it was, by the way, it was for the Queen of England. And he said, we're going to walk back to the White House. you're going to find out something very special. So I'm walking with my wife.
Yeah.
Mrs. Ford and Jerry Ford are here. Henry Kissinger and Nancy Kissinger are standing to my right. And we walk towards the White House entrance. Now, most people think the White House entrance is where what you always see.
Oh, yeah,
It's always, the back is the entrance, okay?
Yeah.
So we walk to those double staircases. As we walk, there's a lineup of violinists, and they're playing dee-da-dee-da-da-da-dee-da-da, they're playing Yellow Ribbon. And I'm walking through these violins and a harpist. And as I'm going up the staircase, I turned to the president. He says, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "None of my friends would believe this." That I had reached a place where the violinists of the White House are playing my song.
That's a thrill. Okay. He's asking you where your Mickey Mouse ring is.
My wife put it somewhere when I went to Israel in the house.
Can't find it.
Safe, and we can't find it. I swear. I can kill it.
That is funny. I'm glad you remembered that. That's great. Best piece of advice that someone else gave you?
Easy. Groucho Marx. Groucho Marx, I once asked him as a kid, I said, "I'm in show business now, Mr. Marx. Is there anything I should remember?" And I was waiting for a joke. Instead, he would never lose the ability to say thank you.
Oh, I guess you answered that question. Favorite meal?
Anything fattening.
You like Japanese, Italian,
I like it all.
Soul food?
I'm a big Indian food guy. Believe it or not.
Do they have good Indian food in Branson?
Oh, the best.
Okay.
What do you think? Indian food stop in New York?
Person you'd most like to have dinner with?
I would most want to have dinner with?
Yeah. If you had one person in the world you could have dinner with tonight, who would you select?
Is this when I'm single or when I'm married?
That's a good. I don't want to get you in trouble, Tony. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Okay. This I'd like to have dinner with
Yeah.
Abe Lincoln.
And you would ask him a lot of questions, wouldn't you?
Wouldn't that be an interesting conversation?
What's the best piece of advice that you would share with singers who would love to have carved out a career like you have for yourself? Today's singers, what would
As cliche as it sounds,
Yep.
never give up.
Never give up.
And learn all aspects, because today you better be good on video.
That's right.
You better dance well.
Not one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Tony, years from now, what do you hope that your legacy might be?
Hopefully that I was a good entertainer. Period. Not even a great one, just a good one.
And I did want to mention a great humanitarian, because you have given back an awful lot of yourself to a lot of worthy causes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You know, when Oral Roberts University gave me my doctorate
Yeah.
in human letters, I said, "How do you get this doctorate?" Is you have to give 45 years to mankind in order to get that doctorate of human letters. And so when I received that doctorship,
Yeah.
I thought, is there a better one than what you do for people?
Tony Orlando, you are the best,
Thank you. You are the best.
and it's so good seeing you again.
Always.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you for always caring
Continuing.
about me and giving us all a chance to be on your show.
And continue with all the great music that you and making people happy.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Tony. Reflecting back on his over 5-decade career, Tony recently said, "My whole purpose is to take my career and turn it into good," which he continues to do successfully, giving his time and celebrity to diabetes research, special needs citizens, and raising money for veterans, something he's been doing for over 40 years. Well, that's about all the time we have left on this edition of Profiles. Until next time, I'm Mickey Burns. Thanks for tuning in.